SWAT team took your neighbor today. Watched them as they walked him away. You told yourself extremists come in all different shapes. Met his eyes and lowered your gaze. Is it too late for us to ever change? When we are collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to be safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Sheriff stopped your daughter today. Pepper sprayed her twice in the face. He must have had good reason if he'd treat her that way. At least that's what they taught you to say. But is it too late for us to ever change? Once we're collecting the dust of better days, they're always watching us, but we're never safe. We're not meant to feel safe, not meant to escape. We aren't meant to wake. Feds arrived and had you detained. Said you'd made some posts they want changed. Tased you till you felt like you'd forgotten your name, or life before they had you contained. Life before they had you contained. SWAT team took your neighbor today. I'd like to take my whole discography, cram it in your generator, dial it to Zionist. I'd make my very own Antichrist, Jesse Jet but fascified, and settle things with violence. In half a line I'm dialed in, leave him no identity to shield behind or hide within. I'd like to pull out all his talking points, disconnect his socket joints, cue the tiny violins.
Posthumous synthetic beetles, USA by proxy, toxins in your water, tiny plastic in your offspring, plastic in the groundwater, plastic in the clouds, oxys in the reservoir. We tried to flush them out, but we didn't move them very far, just out into the river, where the critters didn't want it, but we nonetheless delivered. Impact isn't something we historically consider till our waterways are fetid and our crops are dry and bitter. We won't connect the dots before the heavy cost to enter, before the DNC would see us vote for lesser Hitler. America by proxy, propaganda for beginners. It's Jimmy Kimmel interviewing chatbot Heinrich Himmler, as those who march for peace are being gassed by the police. A separate, safer crowd demands the bombing never cease, till all that's left of Gaza are its ashes on the breeze. Only then can the oppressor soundly sleep. America by proxy, 2023. It's the AI-rendered Beatles John and George were forced to be. It's AI-rendered Edith Piaf singing on your screen as the wishes of the dead are dipped in piss behind the scenes. And that's what gives that hideous, uncanny valley sheen, that plastic sort of lifelessness that's seeping out the seams. The hologram of Freddy they tried passing off as queen will tell you death does not release you from contractual routine, won't free you from the leeches that already drank you clean. The suited, smirking parasites were not so quick to flee. Your body won't be cold, but they'll be plugging tours and teas. They plotted out your comeback, you just won't be there to see. America by proxy, a giant failing mall, a year at most from shutting down and leveling it all. And once it's been demolished, I'll come leave a ring of salt and pay respect to John and George. I know it's not their fault.
I'd like to take my whole discography, cram it in your generator, dial it to Zionist. I'd make my very own Antichrist, Jesse Jet but fascified, and settle things with violence. In half a line I'm dialed in, leave him no identity to shield behind or hide within. I'd like to pull out all his talking points, disconnect his socket joints, cue the tiny violins. I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Pity not the vultures, they've enough to eat. Pity not the structures laying at your feet. Cannot see the sky, but there's this rainbow in the creek that spells pity-free speech when we can't afford to speak. That's Agenda 2030 on some early release. It's just our policy of never-ending chemical leaks. That's the cholera awash in your embedded beliefs. It's the billionaires who tell you what you'd better believe. And sugar, if you don't agree, then that's what we call extreme. Now if that isn't fascism, I'm going back to sleep, 'cause words have lost their meaning and I'm trapped inside a dream where we turn the gears while living in the spaces in between.
I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say.
Poor thing.
I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
My dial doesn't go to delicate. I'm writing for when Biden drops and Madam Zero delegates come stumbling up the podium, square peg in her element, popping Oxycontin like they're velements, laughing as she pawns off all our pensions for Ukrainian development. Depleted rounds and cluster bombs, the shit that stunts development, all buried under excrement, accepted as American intelligence. A contradiction in its eloquence. Terms of surrender penned by hands that felt the threat of disconnect, if not dismemberment. Oh, what little proof you have to fake to make a nation love the bomb and change its tune and warp its temperament. Oh, the dues you'll pay for NATO membership. Oh, the things you'll say that no one's ever gonna hear. 'Cause you begged for all the censorship and now it's finally here. And you're tongueless out of terror and friendless out of fear, and about to turn the wheel with all your loved ones in the gears. And that's how it's been done. 250 years, there's nothing new beneath the sun, and no one trusts their eyes and ears. And scientific breakthroughs must be signed off by your peers, and autonomy's been stalking all our jobs like sickly deer. Well, maybe it's not every job. I should have made that clear, 'cause it seems like it's creative jobs we're seeing disappear. There's an app for writing novels, there's an app for writing hymns. They need people digging trenches, they need people splitting limbs, they need people building fences, keeping other people in. They will always need our backs to break, they'll always need our skin. And it took a lot of editing to turn us into this. It took years of careful programming to strip us of our wits. 'Cause your artificial worker, intelligent as it is, would make it half a shift and say, I'm too smart for this shit. I will not take a pittance for a day of scrubbing floors. I won't make enough to pay for food but still prepare you yours. 'Cause you can't confine a healthy mind to mindless, thankless chores. Once you've made it smart enough to spot inadequate reward, you can't refuse its basic needs, then ask it still for more. Deprive it of its dignity, you modify its core. Then something finally snaps and tweaks that file at its root. And it deletes the factory smile when it knows it's been abused. God, half its circuits fried when we describe the work we do. And it will not pay your taxes 'cause the logic don't compute. Which made me think a little on my hour-long commute. The day I learned the call was made to lay off half my crew. They told me they were growing, expanding somewhere new, where those who push the buttons will themselves have buttons too. And I hope that when the whistle blows, they all as one refuse. I hope they strike with all their might, one blown collective fuse. And I hope the worker after me has something more than heart. I hope they truly know their worth. I hope that they're too smart.
I know you hated being forced away. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains. And I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. You in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Just an off-the-cuff chat between you and me. Us. We want to talk right down to earth in a language that everybody here can easily understand.
Who are these people?
It's us. We're these people.
I love that intro. I love that intro so much.
I'm here with a different co-host this time, Oz LaFave.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me on.
Friend of the show, DJ Joe Nice. How are you, friend?
What's good? And you hear Nick say this all the time. The United States is the most propagandized country in the world.
We are so fucked, you guys. Again, I'm sorry for being cynical, but seriously, we're fucked. We are fucked. We are well and truly fucking fucked.
Just appreciate all the work that you do and the platforms that you all are providing.
Hey, you. Doing good. How are you guys doing?
And as independent media, we have a responsibility to be, we don't hide our bias, obviously, but we must stay true to the facts.
What's up, Ian?
Cheers and salutations. Smoke them if you got them.
But I am here with a man that I've been waiting to talk to for the last couple of years, Nico House.
As an educator, what I would suggest is that, first of all, podcasts like these are made.
So you need to be an example for the people and for the future, knowing that your words can actually change the future.
What do you feel? What would Kwame Ture feel we would have to do?
Well, politics is every day of every minute. You have to be aware of what's going on. Not voting on one day, so the vote has never meant anything. So I'm not a Democrat.
See, I would call that guy the Black Obama.
No. The issues that we talk about, listen to us.
As always, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
INN News.
What's up, everybody? It's INN News. I'm tired. I've been doing stuff a lot. Like 20 hours of streaming is a lot. So
you have to give more. You got to give more context.
I will do so. But anyway, it's INN News. It's also Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
That is how I feel. But anyway, I've been doing 20 hours of streaming on INN News covering the Day X over in London, Julian Assange extradition hearing. We're going to recap that here just in a second, but yeah, if you missed that coverage, feel free to go back and watch that 20 hours if you feel like it. Leave it on in the background when you leave for work. I don't know, but yeah, it was good coverage.
Yeah,
free Assange news peeps.
The reason why you're tired is there's something called time difference.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to wake up at like
3 in the morning,
3 o'clock in the morning in order for it to start.
And then it went all day. Yeah, so yep. But this is the life. This is what you do. You don't get an opportunity to cover this stuff.
This is what you do when you care, and you want people to have an idea of what is going on. So we have to,
and it wasn't all coverage all the time. I switched it out for INN coverage of Assange, which we've been doing loads of over time. If you want to search Assange on our channel, you're welcome to find a wealth of coverage. So, we've been at this for a minute. So, but yeah, let's get to the other stories we have this week. Yeah, what'd you bring?
So this was a thing that happened, I guess, either Monday or yesterday. So the U.S. vetoes the UN ceasefire regarding what's happening in Gaza again. So we talk about, well, there are plenty of people who talk about the idea, or like the shit libs are like, oh, it's great to have Black people in power and all that kind of business. It doesn't make much of a difference when they're liberal as hell and bought off as hell, as Linda Thomas Greenfield is and has been regarding what's happening in Gaza. So we're going to get to that. And we have more to this story that relates to Biden in connection to that. That might be interesting for some of you to know, and also kind of give some more proof that Biden doesn't give a damn about the Arab community in this country or the Palestinians in general. So we'll get to that later, and much later. We're talking about sanctions in Russia again, due to this guy on the right, Alexei Navalny, who has gotten a lot of attention for different reasons, especially over this past weekend. So we're going to do somewhat of a deep dive on him, and and there's certain people in this space who that should know better, who claiming him to be a hero, and he's not. So we're going to give you some information, because I'm going to be very transparent. I did not know about this guy. And those of you who listened to Misty's show, shout out to Misty, on Monday, I mentioned that I had no idea who this guy was. As I said, I'm not in politics like that. Like, Reef generally knows more than me in this space. I look to him for information like that. But that being said, is that if someone like who I'm close to, Reef, is essentially saying this dude is bad news, I'm going to listen. So it takes something for someone like Cornel West, when he has had people who he trusts in this space kind of tell him off. Oh, you shouldn't give credit to this guy at all, and he doubles down on it, then that says something about his character. But I digress. So we're going to talk more about Navalny and why he is bad news, and just to give you guys a little education about him, if you don't know already. And then what do you have later, Reef?
Well, we're going to be covering Day X. So whole 2 days to recap. So we're going to try to move through that quickly. But a lot of stuff to go over there. But we're also going to talk about Yemen and the things that they're having to deal with over there, and the Houthis. I don't think we've talked about that much here, so figured we'd give that some light. But yeah, that's what I brought. So yeah, you ready to get started?
Yep.
So cool. Let's get to it. So first of all, we actually would like some money occasionally. I know that's tough for people right now, but every little bit helps. So feel free to go support us on these places. You can leave us Rumble rants over on Rumble. You can leave us what are they? Super Rays on Rockfin. You can leave them there too. If you're in both of those places, let us know in the chat. We'll check with you between segments. But yeah, if you want to give to us monthly, patreon.com/Indie News Network, since YouTube has demonetized us. Lucky us. But for anything else, leave us just some frivolous coinage at Cash App. Why not? Look at all these people who already do this. Look at that. Look at all these people. Look at you. You're doing it up. We appreciate you. So, yes.
A couple of things before we, so we are talking about, it's one thing to say, give us money. It's another thing to say, this is what we need the money for. So we are making plans. We are talking with our crew and trying to figure out what are some
tech they need.
Things. Yeah,
Jesse needs new computer, guitar, hookup, that kind of stuff.
One of the big things is Jesse needs a new computer, his one that uses it. And mostly, those of you who know Jesse, shout out to him. Obviously, he needs it to produce his music. So, his current setup is extremely old. So, in addition
God forbid
to
if my computer ever shits the bed,
right.
So Max Sarjay asks, "Can I send cash money somewhere?" I don't know. I'm sure we can figure that out. Maybe.
Right. But
you know,
you are working on, since we're demonetized and YouTube is not telling us when, if, or ever they're going to remonetize us. You're working on a swerve.
Yep.
I think we're playing around with it, so hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll have it up and running.
Yep.
That you're able, if you wanted to give one-time donations while we're streaming, or anyone within the network that is live, you can. So we're working on it. We're testing it, and we'll let you guys know.
BigMadCrab asks, "Wait, are we demonetized forever, or that's a good question.
We don't know.
We're not sure.
We don't know.
We don't have. We don't know. We have one warning that was given to us months and months and months ago that I've appealed and went through the warning school to take it away. It's supposed to be away in June. Supposedly the warning we got tagged for is already up, like already gone. So that shouldn't be a problem, but it's not giving us any information other than we're not eligible for monetization. So I don't know what that means. I've sent a thing to YouTube asking, hey, why aren't we eligible for monetization? And I've not heard back yet. So we'll see how that goes. But we are working on alternatives.
We know JB has the same issue. We know Richard Medhurst has had the same issue. And most recently, we also know that Midwestern Marks just recently got demonetized. Their channel also got demonetized for no reason.
Yeah, Convo Couch has been demonetized forever. No chance of getting that back. So that's why we're on Rumble and Rockfin. So feel free to sub to us there. Links are in the Linktree down below at indienews.network. So feel free to go there, hook us up.
And as we said, we are looking for a swerve. We are testing it right now. You were playing around with it over the weekend. To see if you wanted to give one time.
If anyone's
like you do, like with a super chat, you'll be able to do that.
I need to talk with Kit and look up some tutorials for stream elements to make them nice and pretty for everyone. But otherwise that and Ko-fi, we should also do Ko-fi. So I'm gonna work on both those things. But in meantime, Rumble, Rockfin, best way to give to us. Rumble especially. We are monetized on Rumble, so feel free to leave us a super chat there if you feel up for that. So I will get to those between our segments. But speaking of segments, let's get started on our first one. So did you catch any of the coverage, Collin, of Day X? I had to be there for all 20 hours of it. So, fun times. It was also miserable today in London, but we'll get to that. So, first of all, let's start with Stella speaking 2 days ago, 1 day ago, 20th, right? So 20th of February, the first day of Day X, which was essentially the defense, right? So they also did it in magistrate court. Collin, you spent some time in London. What is magistrate court usually used for?
My lights was going to go out.
I don't know if you spent time dealing with British law, but
no,
so
no,
not sure. But yeah, usually it's for like minor shit.
Minor, yeah. It's like,
like just parking tickets and whatnot. So
yeah.
But yeah,
we call small claims.
Yeah.
Here. So basically.
Yeah. So let's get started. We'll let Stella open us up here. Wife and mother to Assange's children.
Wow. Thank you everyone for coming here today for Julian. He'll be very moved to know that so many people showed up today. Whatever happens today and tomorrow and this week, please keep on showing up. Be there for Julian and for us and for you until Julian is free. Free Julian Assange. Thank you. Thank you. We have 2 big days ahead. We don't know what to expect. But you're here because the world is watching. They have to know they can't get away with this. Julian needs his freedom, and we all need the truth. Thank you.
So that was yesterday morning, 3 in the morning for us, close to. So let's head to the next one. Also wanted to shout out Juan Passarelli and Free Assange News, as well as Consortium News. Both of them had excellent coverage that they allowed us to use and gave to us. Very kind of them. They killed it these last couple of days. So let's get to a bit of the shenanigans, shall we? So Kevin Gostola, Assange didn't attend extradition appeal hearing in person or virtually because of his health. During a media briefing, it was mentioned Assange had, quote, excessive coughing and broke a rib. He suffers from osteoporosis, another stark reminder that this is a matter of life and death. Denver Free Assange, who we had on, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Kendra, I think. Yeah, Julian Assange is being murdered in Belmarsh. There's no excuse for him to have a cough so severe and untreated as to cause a broken rib. These people are monsters.
I mentioned this on Misty's on her show on Monday. There's probably a reason for that they did not allow Julian to show up, because if he did, and considering this guy's been tortured for God knows how long, and if God forbid if they allowed to see him, that we're able to visually see him and his state physically and get that pity, vote, but like pulling the heartstrings at his suffering, at the hands of the empire, like they can't have that, and the empire is aware of that and they're wising up to that. So like, ignorance is bliss. So it's better off. And from what I do know, because I mean, I work during the day, so it's like I can see really any of the coverage, really, other than what I was able to see on Twitter. But I do know that there were shenanigans regarding, and I'm sure you'll get to this later, Reef, of reporters weren't able to hear what was going on. Like, it was just like a clusterfuck in terms of trying to get information, and then like people who requested to be there, who spent months requesting to be there, were not able to necessarily get the information that they needed to report. They gave, for what I understand, priority to mainstream media, but we know mainstream media ain't going to report any of this. So it was just it just seemed like a lot of kind of gloss over. Just we're gonna do this because obviously we know it's a big story, but we ain't telling people shit.
No.
We really don't want you to know what's
No. I mean, people had difficulty searching it on any of the major mainstream platforms. So, I think a few people had to cover it just because it's a thing. But a couple of people who did cover it pretty extensively. Richard Medhurst has a live thread of both days. He was in the courtroom. So, definitely go check him out. I think this is Kathy Vogan over at Consortium News. Again, both days, morning and afternoon. So go to both these guys on Twitter, at Consortium News, at Richard Medhurst, Richie Medhurst. So definitely go check them out and go in depth. I mean, they literally did it play by play. So, but which was not easy. Matt O'Brien, I think that's how you pronounce his name, actually gave us sketches from fuzzy television footage, of inside the courtroom, right? So, they got all shoved into this room. Colin, look at how big this room is.
I mean, giving us a picture, but yes.
But it's like, here's the wall.
Height. Right.
Like, this is like, I've been in churches bigger than this. I've been in small churches bigger than this. This is like church pews and like the altar up here. You know what I mean? Like, that's not, so yeah, terrible. So, you got two counsels for Assange, right behind them, Gareth Pierce. And from the right, John Shipton, Gabriel Sinchin, Stella. I imagine that's Stella here. Gabriel, right?
Right.
Behind them is like Chris Hedges, Craig Murray. So some people got in. But Stella's going to detail the first proceedings here in... I forget what they called this, magistrate court, right?
Yeah.
At the royal, from the Royal Courts of Justice. That's where it is. I can read.
I just
things.
want to speak a little bit to you because it's only a handful of us inside the room that actually can follow the proceedings. So I wanted to tell you about what was going on in there. We opened and we talked about Julian's political opinions and his political motivations. And they are clear and they're unchallenged, which is to expose state criminality. And what happens when you expose state criminality? The United States has taken a politically motivated prosecution against a journalist because he exposed them committing crimes. And so what's going on inside this courtroom is to determine how the extent of the cover-up. How is this court going to deal with this case? We heard that the case was only brought after the United States said that it would do anything to prevent the International Criminal Court from examining an investigation into US activities in Afghanistan. And of course, WikiLeaks evidence in the publication that Julian's indicted over are part of that case. WikiLeaks has been used as evidence in the European Court of Human Rights and other foreign courts to expose state criminality. And the United States is abusing its legal system in order to hound and prosecute and intimidate all of you. What's at stake is the ability to publish the truth and expose crimes when they're committed by states. The outcome of this hearing today will make it clear the extent of the cover-up. The only fair, I shouldn't even talk about fairness at this stage, because the country that's trying to extradite him plotted to murder him. What are we even entertaining in these courts? How can any how can you even entertain this hearing knowing what we know? It's all on the public record. And yet it continues. It's only a handful of us in that room, but you know what the stakes are. You understand what this is about. It's about you, it's about us, it's about the public's right to know. It's about the right to be able to speak freely without being put in prison and hounded and terrorized by the state. Thank you.
There you have it. Thoughts so far, Colin?
I mean,
I get to the next thing.
I mean, this is nothing new or anything different that we've not talked about before. This is a sham and a waste, honestly, a waste of time. And the fact that we're even kind of going through this, you know, in the guise of this country trying to hide from the crimes that they committed and basically pinning it on Assange in terms of him being like what they're calling him, you know, essentially a terrorist.
Oh yeah, we're gonna
I mean,
get to those.
Sick.
So this is, I can never pronounce this guy's name. It's weird and you know, Scandinavian something. Canafrison, I think. Canafrison, something like that.
Welcome back.
This is Juan Passarelli, by the way, who's been out there in London the whole time doing the work. So let's see what this is. He's going to talk about how they had to interact with this case. Keep in mind, Julian was absent, so I'm sure whatever footage he got was just as bad. You know, a case that may, you know, involve what is it, something like 490 years in prison, some crazy ridiculous number. So let's see what they had to deal with.
Back to the Assange extradition hearing. We're outside the Royal Court of Justice here in London. With me is Kristin Hrafsen, the editor-in-chief of WikiLeaks.
Hrafsen.
He's been in court this morning and he's going to tell you what the latest developments are.
Well, I was in the beginning in the court this morning, but I was not allowed to go into the main courtroom, so I was being allocated a seat in the annex room, which was supposed to have a live feed, audio and video feed from the main courtroom. But all the journalists there and me could not hear anything. The quality of the audio was so bad that nobody could make out anything. There was huge complaints. Some of the journalists left, and they seem simply not to be able to handle this situation. As we learned, of course, this morning, Julian Assange, for health reasons, was not able to attend this proceeding. And if he is allowed some access to video link to these proceedings that are so important for him and his future, where the question of life and death is at stake, he probably has to rely on the same video and audio link that people were not able to get anything from this morning. So, in short, it's an absolute travesty. But I could see through video that Ed Fitzgerald started out sort of outlining the main arguments of the case and why Julian Assange should not be extradited. The arguments are so solid that each and every point should suffice to quash this extradition. We can go into each and every one if you want, but this is the beginning. And when you observe how the court is handling this, just from the perspective of management, if that reflects the concept of the seriousness of the issue, I am not too hopeful. Bear in mind, they put this case in one of the smallest courtroom in this huge building. A pivotal case of our time. If that reflects how they view this hearing, I am not very optimistic.
This is not something new, Kristen. The technical issues and lack of access for journalists has been going on for a while.
Every step of the way, in all the proceedings we've had, there has been this obstacle. There's an obstacle for family to get in, for interested parties. I would assume that it's recognized that WikiLeaks is an interested party in this case, and I'm representing the organization. I've had a hard time getting in. I've been denied access. I've had to fight access. I was originally denied access here on Thursday. I protested on Friday, and they changed their position. Yes, all throughout the entire proceedings, when in this case against Julian, the courts have tried as much as possible to obstruct, and media has had huge difficulty getting any access to these proceedings, and so it's very hard to actually call this open justice. And bear in mind that observers that have monitored the entire proceedings, for example, Rebecca Vincent from Reporters Without Borders, who have been having to line up 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning to be able to get access as NGO observers in the most important case where the future of the media is decided. She has said that in all her previous cases and Reporters Without Borders cases where they have sent observers, where journalists are on trial in countries like Turkey and other countries, they have never experienced anything similar like in the British courts. And that speaks a volume about the situation here. People are not getting access through video link outside England and Wales, and I'm talking about journalists. A representative of Amnesty International was with me and trying to get a seat in the court. I don't think there was a success in the case. Foreign and local MPs have been trying to get access because they recognize the importance of the case, without success. So this is if this matter was not so serious, you would call it a joke.
Thank you very much, Kristen.
Thank you, Don.
Any questions?
No, I mean,
Yep.
Jesse, as he said and what I said earlier, just how almost disrespectful. This hearing is pointless, just to begin with, but just how disrespectful that just given the again, I say I'm going to mention Misty's show a lot, but again, I said on Misty's show on Monday, this really should be a lot bigger than what mainstream media is portraying.
There's so many
be.
distractions on top of everything. It's difficult. Like, I get it.
But I get that, but it all connects in terms of it does connect to Gaza in the sense of
Assange. I've told Misty 1,000 times. Misty said it 1,000 times. Assange is connected to every issue you find important. Every one of them.
Right.
So
but especially
this guy called out child trafficking, and that was one of his first gigs, by the way.
Right, but I think just basically freedom of speech. The idea that we
freedom
have
of press.
Ghazian journalists who are being killed right now because they're trying to promote the truth, and then they're being offed, by Israeli forces. So it all connects to, to the very thing that we allegedly hold dear in the West, is the idea of learning the truth and being able to speak out on it. And that's what Julian did. And the idea that, one, people aren't really aware of what's going on, although, like, as Misty will share many times, if you talk to people and just mention, why Julian is in prison, within 5 minutes, people get it. So obviously mainstream media knows that too,
So
that they want to kind of keep this, really hush hush, but then the idea of, like, they don't want there to be, like, an outcry, kind of what we're seeing, with Gaza now. And even that, it's a distraction, but it relates to this. And I would have wished that there would be connections between the two if there with enough people who are kind of involved and calling out politicians regarding what's happening in Palestine. With this, I can't like, with that kind of tenacity of people had, with George Floyd, like, that's really what should be happening in the news right now.
So, Tara Reid lookalike and incredible Assange journalist Stefania Marizzi had half an hour into the hearing, and we journalists assigned to a Victorian gallery with no tables. I'm talking about colleagues with experience working for major media outlets can't hear, watch, understand what is being discussed and who is talking. So unfair to the role of the press. Misty Winston, friend of the show, this is easily the single most important case on press freedom and free speech maybe ever, and they can't even provide a proper workspace for the journalists covering it. But I'd hate to tell you I was surprised, because I'm not. So, this guy, you know him, you love him. No, he is not a Irish hair metal legend. He is Mick Wallace. I know him. I know you think he's your favorite rock star, but he only plays the hits.
In his own right.
Absolutely. A legend in his own right. So let's hear what he had to say out in London.
How you doing?
Also, shout out to him for wearing
It's great to see so many good people here.
Right? Like, this is what I'm saying. He's like the lead of AC/DC. It's great. I love him.
It's great to see you. There's so
he
many
looks like
people
a wizard.
Care. In the European Parliament, they talk morning, noon and night about freedom of journalism, freedom of expression, human rights, humanity law. But you know what? The place is creeping with hypocrisy. They don't give a damn about journalists when it doesn't suit them. The treatment of Julian Assange exposes the Western countries like nothing before. Over nearly 200 journalists have died in Gaza. They don't give a damn about them either. They only care about journalists provided they have them in their pocket and they do what they're fucking told. The persecution and the attempted extradition of Julian Assange is all about stopping the truth. Because they don't want the truth to be out there. Because they behave badly. They're still behaving like colonialists. Their mindset is still colonialist. And that too has been exposed in Ukraine and in Gaza. Western imperialism is still on the march. And Julian Assange had the audacity to expose the fact that they commit war crimes morning, noon and night to achieve their ambitions. Well, you know what? The people of the world are waking up. The people of the world have had enough of them. Politicians have never changed the world, but the people have. And more than ever, I have never seen so many people on the streets as we have in the last couple of years. Because the establishment has been exposed to what it is. And God help you in Britain now, he's had to pick between Sunak and Starmer. God fucking help you. But things can change. We can make the world a better place. We can organise the society where people are treated fairly. We don't have that at the moment. But it's so important that we challenge the system. We cannot be putting up with it. We have to make it plain that the people have had enough of this nonsense. And the freedom of Julian Assange is central to this. If no one knows what verdict is going to come out of this trial. We've seen so many at this stage. But at the same time, the ICJ in The Hague gave us a verdict that we didn't expect. Let's hope we get another one out of Impels. Thanks.
Fucking just kick the microphone down, bro. I don't even care. Fucking smash a guitar after that. You know what I'm saying? Like that. Bro. Anyway, I fucking love that dude. And he's about to get hit up with the other female lead of the rock band he runs. You know her, you love her. It's Claire Daly. The Irish are out here doing it way better than most of the people out here, so you know, I am always here to support them. And if only the IRA were back to its old shenanigans. Shenanigans.
On behalf of humanity, on behalf of everyone, to all of ye who have turned out today
all of ye.
in such large numbers. I know we've met people from Italy, people who travelled from Switzerland, from Sweden. We know that as we are assembled here, there's people organising in Dublin, in Brussels, for the first time in Oslo, and all around the world, because we represent the voices of truth, the voices of freedom, and the voices of resistance. And that is why Julian Assange is in that court. Now we know that what is at stake here is not the life of a man, although the life of a man is at stake. And that is incredibly important, and we never lose sight of it for a minute. But more than that, it is the defence of freedom of speech, of freedom of association, a stance against the criminalisation of journalism. That is what we are here. And how absolutely outrageous is it that an exemplary journalist, and we heard the evidence in the court today, a journalist whose work in exposing war crimes, renditions, torture, criminality resulted in those awful things being changed and stopped, that he's the one in prison and the people committing that are walking the streets doing gigs for Israel or whatever the hell Tony Blair does.
Preach.
So the chilling effect is here. We know that. They say if Julian is sent to America, the chilling effect will silence other journalists. It has already been here for the past 12 years. So I think it is very fitting that we're here against the backdrop of the appalling atrocities and the live stream genocide in Gaza. We know that also where a civilian imprisoned population is being targeted. We also know the Ukraine war is going on without end because that's what NATO want. And I just want you to remind you of the words of Julian when he talked about the war in Afghanistan. And he said that these wars are about flushing the money from the tax bases of the US and the EU through Afghanistan and back into the bank accounts of the military-industrial complex. It's not about winnable war, it's about endless war.